Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to join you here in beautiful Chiang Mai, and I'm here to talk to you about freedom. So, a lot of people here probably, heard the refrain that's been repeating, we're all here to get away from the 9 to 5, we're all here to live a freer life. And this is all of the adventures that I was on, and when I talk about freedom, I'm not talking about some abstract concept. I'm talking about actually getting away from the systems that limit you in your life. And I speak to people, and they ask me, oh, well, what kind of freedom do you mean? Well, it depends what kind of problem you run into. So, for some people, the problem is, oh, the passport that I have doesn't let me go to many countries visa-free. And if you're Thai, maybe you have certain problems going to places in Africa or LATAM. If you're from whatever other place, you have problems getting somewhere else. So this is a problem of citizenship. Then other people have problems with, let's say, they want to receive crypto in their business, and in their country, they will get legally prosecuted if they do that. So there's a different problem that needs solving. Other than that, there's the problem of economic freedom, which is how difficult is it for you to actually establish a corporation? How difficult for you is it to file your paperwork or get licensed to do a certain type of procedure? And how transparent is the tax system? And speaking of taxes, do you as an individual get taxed worldwide wherever you go? Like, for example, if you're from the US or any other of these pink countries, you get taxed anywhere you go regardless because you're taxed on your citizenship. And if you're from these blue countries, that means that you are only taxed on the revenue that you make inside of that blue country. So the question of taxes comes up quite often for digital nomads. And if you don't solve this problem, you run into a lot of bureaucracy, you run into fines, you run into eventually debt situations, and that's none of what we want. We want to break away from the systems that limit us, and we want to live a freer life. That's why we're all here. And the answer that I've found works best to get out of this undesirable situation of fines, etc., is something called flag theory. And even though it's a theory, it's very practical to implement, which is every country is good at providing something. So you literally pick and choose different flags, and you create this eclectic system of, oh, I like the taxation in so-and-so country. I like the visa benefits that so-and-so country gives me. And you can just choose these different countries and put them together and get this diversified portfolio of government services, because these governments are here to serve you. You're not supposed to just pony up and pay whatever they say. So there's a bunch of different categories for these flags that we're going to go into here. We don't have too much time, but I'd say that the most important ones to go through are, number one, citizenship. That is literally the passport that you carry with you at the airport and through customs. That tells you where you can pass through the border without a visa. That tells you where banks will accept your individual bank account. That's a big blockage that some people run into. And citizenship is one of the most difficult things to change. If you want to get naturalized in a new country, it takes 5 to 10 years. Then you've got residence. So there's different types of residence. There's tax residence, which is where are you considered for paying or maybe even not paying taxes. And then there's your legal residence, which is where do you receive your mail and where are you considered to stay as a majority of your time. Number 3 is your company headquarters. So where is your company registered? Each country has a database called a corporate registry where people found their companies. And let's say if you're founding a company in the United Kingdom, that's structured differently from a company that's built in a Caribbean country with low taxes or something like that. Then number 4 is where do you bank? So depending on where you do your banking, you might have access to credit lines like in the US, or you're restricted in terms of what kind of transaction you can make where and how. So choosing a good banking country is almost as important as the rest of the stuff that we're talking about. And then number 5, obviously I'll be speaking with Fabio on stage about where you can do investments and how to structure your global tax footprint when doing so. And then number 6, playgrounds. That's pretty much where you want to go to enjoy your lifestyle and have a good time. Number 7, birth tourism. So an interesting thing you can do is you can go to Brazil, have your child there, and the child is born a Brazilian citizen, and because you have a Brazilian citizen as an immediate family member, what you can do is after 1 year, apply for your own citizenship in Brazil. So it's an interesting process that we help people do. 8 is quite important the older you get, so health insurance, getting proper medical care. There's different countries that are excellent at this, but kind of fall back in the other fields. And 9 is marriage, which is what countries can you get married in, which gives you certain benefits, including taxes, including getting citizenship, including other fields. So I'm going to go through the thing that probably everybody here knows, which is that if you live in a country that's not the US, and you don't live there for more than 183 days out of the year, you are not liable for taxes there. So, if you already live a digital nomad lifestyle, you do not necessarily have to pay taxes. Obviously, talk to me about that. But if you are considering, and I know a lot of people here in the audience are, if you're considering a digital nomad lifestyle, just know that this can save you a lot of money in the long run. And the best way that we've found for people to live is seasonally. So, maybe you want to spend your winters in South Africa, you want to spend your summers somewhere in Europe, etc. So, an important thing to figure out is how to get out of your tax residency. And there's different ways of going about this. Some countries will request you to pay an exit tax. Some countries will just let you leave and then later notify them that you've done so. Some countries ask you to first notify them and then physically leave. So it depends from country to country. And when it comes to the countries that you can do this in, there are just so many options that I don't want to waste your time with this. Depending on where you come from and what you do, there's just so many different ways of structuring it. For example, if you're a global investor, there's countries where you can open up a company and then the investments of that company are not taxed. But if you're a physical resident there as an individual, then your income is highly taxed. And then there's other countries where it's vice versa. So really the structuring of this type of stuff is quite difficult. And I don't want to gatekeep any of this. I will talk to you about all of this stuff, and I've studied all the regulations about this stuff. There's a philosophy that we have of anti-gatekeeping, which is we want to tell you exactly what the laws are, we want to tell you exactly what the procedures are, so that you can see exactly how valuable it is to make use of and take advantage of it. And I hear some of you say, oh, but I'm happy living in Thailand or Portugal or wherever else, like I don't need any of this stuff. That's perfectly fair. What you can do is when you live in these countries and you stay there 100% of the time, and you're definitely a tax resident in these countries, etc., there's still stuff that you can do to minimize your tax footprint. Like there's no reason why you should be paying 25% or 40% when you can be paying 10%. And there are ways of doing that, particularly if you're an expat, as many nomads here don't necessarily move from place to place. They're expats who've just found a country they like and they want to stay there. So all of the stuff that you see on screen are the different options that allow you to diversify while living in a single place. And when it comes to flag theory, there is no unified answer. People often ask me, what's the best place to open up my tax residency? What's the best place to open up my company? And there is no single answer. It always depends. If you're from so-and-so country, then you might have a double taxation treaty with so-and-so country, or you might have a taxation information exchange agreement with so-and-so. There's layers and layers of this stuff, and I love talking about the technical aspects of this, like what is the software that's used to process you when you come in through an airport? What's the data interchange packet standards that governments use to communicate tax information to each other? There's so much stuff to go through here. But when it comes to what we're looking for, this is the stuff we want. We want well-being, freedom, ability to move, ability to do business. And I'm just going to go through a few fast examples, like myself, I'm a resident nowhere, I have an Anguilla company, and I have several bank accounts. And whatever situation I'm going to skip through this, whatever you've experienced, trust me, it's not as complicated as situations we've had. We've had people from officially unrecognized countries, we've had official political state enemies. Whatever it is, you can contact us at Zoot America Hub, and don't let the name fool you. We're not just for South America, we're for worldwide. So whatever you're facing, if it's taxes, if it's corporations, if it's anything else, just give us a ring. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. Stay on stage. Alexa, you might have heard that you will be part of the panel that is happening now. Thank you very much for your talk, and I also heard that you have a side event.
Correct.
This week.
So after this event, we're going to have side events, and I believe it's on the 21st, on Wednesday, in the evening at 7 p.m. We're going to be going to a cigar lounge here in beautiful Chiang Mai, and we're going to talk about taxes. So obviously, whenever anybody thinks about people avoiding taxes, they're thinking about this wood-paneled room with smoke-filled wooden-paneled rooms. So that's what we're trying to do here. That's the aesthetic we're going for.
Pretty cool. So thank you very much. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Fabio.
Yep.
Let's sit down for our money panel, where we try to bring these two things together, taxes and investment strategies, because it makes a hell lot of sense to think both of these topics together and make sure that you create a setup in time that allows you for an optimized outcome. Because who of you has ever actually created a table for compound interest to like visualize yourself over the period of 10, 20, 30 years? What a difference it makes if your investments are having a return of 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, and then you add taxes. Like in many countries, there is like a withholding tax, or something similar where you need to take at least 25% out of that every year, which is 1/4 of your yield. So that makes a huge difference. And if you come to a setup that optimizes for that and take the government as your silent shareholder out of this, the impact in the long run, if you visualize that graph, is massive. So you heard a little bit about their story. I'm moderating this panel. We will also have room for question of yours. For an introduction, I introduce you about how I found my setup. I'm born and raised in Germany. That's my current only passport. I'm on the way towards another one. I signed off from Germany back in 2017, and while there were politicians in Germany that were always talking about like more than half of the world's books about taxation are not only published in German language, but also to be applied to the German tax law. It's that complicated, but on the other side, it's surprisingly easy to get out of the German system. You basically just walk up the local municipality, tell them like, hey, I'm not living here anymore, then you get a nice certificate with a stamp and a signature, but then you actually should move out. So it only makes sense if you're not physically in the country anymore. That's what I did back in 2017. Got rid of everything that casts a shadow and does not fit into my suitcase. And since then, I'm a perpetual traveler. So for the first couple of years, I actually played the same game of having no residency at all anywhere, with my business setup in Estonia for reasons that I think we heard about earlier. Visit Estonia is one of our dear sponsors and supporters here. And they create and offer a business setup that works fully remotely by design. That's what I opted for. I have registered my personal holding company in Estonia, which is basically my investment vehicle for everything. And under that, my personal portfolio looks a little bit different from the one of Fabio that you just heard about. It's heavily weighted towards direct investments into businesses that I have founded or co-founded. So I have several small businesses in my portfolio, and in hindsight, it's always like the most boring ones that in the long run actually are the good dividend payers and develop very well. But they are all held by my Estonian holding company, which means with a country and company setup that has a deferred profit taxation. There is no annual taxation. That means as long as I keep money inside the company, and if I'm not mistaken, Fabio, you opted for something similar?
Yeah. Well, I'm more or less like you. Like I have my company in Estonia, I'm a tax resident in Malta, so it's great because when I pay my employee salary, I just pay on the money I receive in Malta, and not the money that remains abroad. And for the accumulation phase, I spoke before, I think is a great accelerator to
Yes.
to arrive at least at the financial freedom number, no? And then you can do whatever you feel good for you. Also, I think it's not for everyone because you don't have to have any links, for example, at least for Europeans. You don't have any strong links with your country. For example, if you move to Malta, but you have two children that go to school in Italy, it can make problems. So you have to be actually to move actually and prove that you have
Or use
actually
condoms in the first place.
What Fabio is talking about is something called locus of life. And even though, for example, you don't live in Spain, for example, like I mentioned, you're not there for more than 183 days of the year. If your child goes to school in Spain or you own property in Spain, then you're considered a tax resident because that is the locus of your life. That is the thing that you've left behind. And not every country respects just a rule of, oh, you haven't been here 183 days? Okay, sorry, you're not a tax resident anymore. That doesn't work that way. There's always some angle that governments can get to keep you as a tax resident in the country.
Yeah, or if you have properties, but you can show that this rent out is just an investment, there's no problem for you.
Yeah,
even
so
in there.
it gets complex the more you already have, whether in terms of family or in property ownership, and it really depends on the country where you are. But as someone who has a digital business, has the freedom to move, you have a big freedom to actually design your setup according to your lifestyle, but it makes a lot of sense and it's very important to consider all these factors. For American, US passport holders, things are completely different because your country is one of two countries in the world, together with one that is probably less capable of actually enforcing it, Eritrea, that will tax you worldwide for the rest of your life, wherever you are. But for all other countries in the world, taxation is based on residency. And that simplified always means, are you in the country or not? That's where... Yeah.
The funny thing about American enforcement of this stuff is, let's say that you're a German citizen who's completely removed themselves from the German tax system, and then you get your residency, let's say in Paraguay. Paraguay is very popular for nomads as a 0% personal tax jurisdiction. And let's say you do all this other stuff, and then you open up a bank account, let's say in the Cayman Islands or something, a completely, separate from the US. You have nothing to do with the US. None of your clients are from there. But when you go to the bank, you still have to fill out what's called a FATCA form, Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. So every single bank in the world requires you to fill out this form, and they report that information to the US government. And 99.9% of the time, the US government is just going to throw that information away because they don't care. But everybody is still obligated to report to the US. So if you're from the US and you're listening to this, be very, very careful about what you do with offshore banking and with outside tax residencies and similar.
Which is a statement that you often hear from tax advisors for two reasons. First one is to generally scare you and make you buy their services. And the other one is, I mean, there's a truth to it. There are risks and you need to be aware of them, but they are navigable. So the bottom line is, it is very much possible to optimize a structure, but you need to read the fine print, look into the details, have conversations with people, get inspired, and most of the information is out there. Don't trust ChatGPT alone. Maybe it helps you to get a first overview of the big picture, but then, yeah, whether read the laws and the fine prints yourself. In my main job, I'm an insurance broker, so I have this fetish of actually reading fine prints and trying to find my way through them. But if that's none of your hobbies, then better pay a little bit money first than a lot of money later when it backfires.
And I also think that there's a thing to consider that mainly in European countries, tax is more your active work than your investment. So I think that these choosing the right country for your when you are in your active phase. So when your income from your company for your work are high, is very tax efficient to move in these countries. And then when you have a net worth and you live off your investment, you can choose to stay there because of course you don't have capital gain taxes or you don't have tax on dividends. But if you move in another country like Spain, for example, taxes on dividends is from 19 to 21%. So the difference is from 0 to 21%. The difference between the taxes on your active income is from 0 to 50%. So what I want to say is that when you are active, when you are in accumulation phase, is very tax efficient to move in these countries and to create your net worth, and then you can also choose to live in your home country or whatever, because you're not taxed 0, but you're taxed 20. You are not active, so you are not taxed. You don't receive income from your company, so you are not taxed 50%, but only 20%. So, for example, this is my strategy. Now I want to take advantage of Malta or my tax residency. And then in the future, I take it to go back not in Italy, but probably in Spain. And so when I will have my network that pay my income, I don't need income from my company taxed by 50% in 2-3 years maybe. So yeah, this is my strategy, for example.
Yeah, I think this is a good point in time to open up our panel a little bit to the audience. And I would say let's do 2 questions that you might have here. We have mic runners. Raise your arm if you have a burning question. Free consultation here from stage right now. There's one over here. Just pass the mic, please. Or there's another mic here. Yeah. Try again.
My question's for Fabio. With your properties that you have in Spain, and I assume you do not live in Spain, how do you manage those? Do you have a property management company? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I have property management companies there, real estate agents that manage it for me. Yeah, and I don't pay because in Valencia is my friend, and in Alicante the tenants pay the agency, so I don't spend nothing on it. Yeah.
Another question? There's one here in the first row.
A question for Alexa. Generally, all of us are at different stages with our amount of nomadism, how long we've been doing it, what our income is. At what point would you say it makes sense to start looking at this? And besides speaking to someone like yourself, what are the first 1 to 3 things that you would say are just the best starting point or the base to go with?
Certainly. So something that I run into a lot is I speak to people at conferences and they start telling me about, what about so-and-so jurisdiction? What about so-and-so citizenship? How do I get this and that? And it's only 10 to 20 minutes into the conversation that I find out that their income is like 20,000 euros a year. And I realized that, maybe if you're making 20,000 euros a year, the thing that you should be optimizing for isn't the amount of taxes that you're paying, but rather how much revenue you have. Now, when it comes to when does it make sense to start doing this, I'd say that when you move from, let's say, we spoke about the staircase model earlier in the conference. When you move from let's say, remote employee to freelancer, and your revenue gets above something like 40 to 50,000 euros a year, that's a good time to start looking at it. Obviously, it always depends on the mathematics of the taxes of your local jurisdiction, etc. But that's the time to start looking at it. And it might save you 10% if you do everything right. It might save you well over 80%. So it really depends on the jurisdiction that you're from, but that would be the number, the revenue number for when you should start looking at that.
Plus, of course, it depends on the assets that you already have. If you maybe have a heritage, if you inherit property or a company or have other income streams than work income, then it always makes sense to look at it very early. And of course, even if your income is low, but you have big ambitions with a scalable business model, then setting up a company in a friendly jurisdiction that is maybe ideally also not the one where you hold your passport makes sense from day one. But it should be, I guess, it should be like some serious and realistic ambition for a scalable company and not a freelance business where you basically trade money for time.
Certainly, and I mean, if you're a startup and you see a lot of sudden growth, but you're incorporated in a place like Italy or wherever, and then you find out that, my financial people are telling me that with the scale that we've got going on in the business, next year we're going to start losing money on taxes just because the jurisdictions aren't aligned well. Well, that's a great thing to start looking at, probably before you go into your Series A or something like that. While you're still in pre-seed seed, that's the time to decide on the proper jurisdiction, because more and more VCs today are looking at, okay, what is the level of political risk that your company is undergoing, because it's not just about business model, etc. They're also going to look at, you're incorporated in Pakistan, most likely you're not going to be able to do business successfully internationally, so that's a thing to optimize for at that stage of a company.
And then, of course, it depends on your long-term ambitions. If it's a company that you want to exit one day, we heard that earlier from Sheena, having the company incorporated in the wrong country might stand in your way. Also, if you want to get investors in, it makes a lot of sense to incorporate in a VC-friendly environment. In Europe, that would be Estonia. Or the UK. In the US, of course, is very an important marketplace for that. But depending on your ideas of your future cap table in the company, your shareholder structure, that's an important part as well.
Yeah. For example, in Italy, there's a good tax regime until 85,000 per year. So, for example, I stayed there the first 3-4 years of my freelance career, and then I move when I get over this limit. So also Italy is good for people that have an income of freelancer that have less than 85,000 per year as income, and then it's a nightmare.
I see an arm going up here.
I have the mic.
Over there.
Hey,
Camille was faster.
Yes. I was wondering, Fabio, if, sorry, I've lost my voice, but if you are considering buying more properties, and if so, if you would double down on Spain, or if you're looking at other markets, other countries.
Before you answer, I take your lost voice as a compliment for the party yesterday evening. Thank you so much. Did you enjoy last night, guys?
Yeah, I'm considering it, but for sure not in Spain, because in Spain, the government is making the things always more difficult for investors, because for example, my 2 properties, I rented one for rooms for students and one for not short term but mid term, from 1 to 11 months. It's not possible to rent short terms like Airbnb, and I think in next years it will be always worse, the situation in Spain. So, for example, I'm considering investing maybe outside Europe, because I think that the things happen in Spain will happen in other European countries, So yes, yes, I'm considering investing, but not in Spain and maybe not in Europe.
And also, now you're touching also a little bit on the topic of asset classes. Of course, you can take part in real estate investment without buying one real estate, like exposing yourself to the risk of this one building and its neighborhood and the local governance and everything. You can also immediately spread your risk and exposure by, for example, buying real estate investment trusts of the stock market, or some smaller
of
developments.
For example, I also have some rates. It's very good because they give you 6%, 5, 6, or maybe sometimes 7 or 8% of totally passive income and totally liquid. So you can sell it, buy it and sell with one click. So it's very nice. And I always want to keep my percentage of my asset class in physical real estate as maximum 25%, 30%. Because of because it's not liquid, no.
Are you hosting a side event this week?
Yep, Thursday. Yeah.
Very, very good. Yeah, I think this is something many people, including myself, want to dive deeper into, like discussing not only different asset classes and strategies, but also like hands-on picks of, for example, which real estate investment trust are you invested in? What is my experience, and then
exactly.
share a little bit. So it's your side event like a mastermind, these kind of things?
Yeah, workshop. I organize like it's 1 hour and 1 hour and a half. I would like to do it like openly to discuss and to
Nice.
Yeah,
and always what we easily can arrange all the time is some spontaneous lunch or dinner meetups, or breakfast, of course, as well. Just put them into a Telegram group if you have a suggestion. And I feel like we should have just like an informal investment mastermind dinner this week someday. Who would be interested to join? Oh, wow. Okay. AP, noted. Thank you so much. I've seen one more hand, and then I think we are already at the end of this slot here. Who was first? Please stand up.
Test.
Greg, yeah.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
What's your name?
Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Are there any potential downsides to getting a second passport?
That's a great question. So the reason people get second passports are various. Usually it's because the first one doesn't let them go to many countries visa-free, or it's somewhat restricted in the type of banking that they can get. When they get their second passport, what happens there is you will usually use it for, let's say, opening a bank account, or for correcting the problem that you ran into in the first place. And when you do that, you sometimes run into issues such as that second passport. I've had this happen to a client. My last name, for example, it has a special character. Burmazovic is my last name, and then the end
Because
letter
you are
is
a special character.
So I'm told. And the C at the end has a little hat on it. And for this client, they had similarly special character, and the second passport that they got did not have the special character. And then when they compared that to the proof of address document that he'd given a bank, it was denied because it was technically not the same name. So there's technicalities like that can cause problems. When you're a citizen in a new country, they might have requirements that you serve in the country's army. They might have things like when you're a citizen of this country, you may not be a citizen of any other country. You must renounce all other citizenships. Usually the type of citizenships that people are able to gain in these new citizenship programs don't require that type of thing. If you look at countries that require conscription, usually those are not the countries that provide access to their passport. If you look at the countries that want to, the countries whose passport you want to supplement with a different one, those are the countries that are problematic to get in the first place. So usually if you're getting something like St. Kitts and Nevis, if you're getting something like Vanuatu or Nauru, yeah, I know most of these countries few people have heard of, but they're fully functioning passports, and in those places usually there's no large disadvantages that come with that, except these potential technicalities that I mentioned.
But I'm pretty sure there are quite some people in the room who you can directly talk to. Raise your hands if you have 2 or more citizenships. Wow. Okay, look around, grab one of those for a conversation in the coffee break, because for the lunch break, we have actually been much faster today and assigned tables for everyone who took part in the AI seat assignment. If I'm not mistaken, we have 102 people that should have gotten an email. So the drill is the same like yesterday. And after that, you've seen the hands. Find them at the coffee table and ask them how they feel about having 2 or more passports. Thank you so much for this panel.
Thank you.
We touched a bunch of topics, and we will go deeper. We have heard we have side events. We'll have a dinner this week. Let's take it from there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, see you at the event.
Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio.